Welcome to the VUCA Insights podcast, where we bring you insights from the world of investing, entrepreneurship, and growth mindset. Our guest today is Wilson Ong, co-founder and chief operating officer of Avirtech, a company transforming agriculture with crop intelligence. Wilson took the Singapore Valley, hint, not Silicon Valley, path by co-founding StockFlock, a portfolio and market intelligence tool for investors. In 2016, it was acquired by Dr. Wealth, a Singapore-based Robo-advisor firm. During the same time, he was also a financial writer for the Motley, and in 2017, he co-founded Avirtech. Avirtech provides agritech solutions for industrial plantations, especially the palm oil industry, which is predominant in Malaysia and Indonesia. They are one of the market leaders in using drone and smart technologies in terms of mapping, surveillance, and targeted spraying of fertilizers and pesticides for optimization purposes. We talked about the unique economics of each team or unit in his business, problems he's trying to solve with the company's technology, as well as challenges he faces, including financing. Enjoy my conversation with Wilson Ong. Hello everyone, and welcome back to a new episode 6 of the VUCA Insight podcast. Today, we're going to talk about an industry that is very much predominant within the Southeast Asia region, which is the agriculture business. And with me today, I have actually Wilson, and he is the co-founder or founder of Avirtech. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yep,
Wilson?
Avirtech, yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon.
Thank you very much for inviting us over.
Yeah. So, give me a glimpse of a 15-year-old Wilson. What was he like, or what did he wanted or aspired to be when he was an adult?
Wow, that went quite far back.
You don't look that old anyway.
Not that old, but it's still quite a number of years. I think 15 years old, I was from Singapore.
Okay.
So most Singaporeans are going through the usual process of studying, going to university. So not much different.
Okay.
I think at the point of time.
Okay.
I think more when in university there was some back then. I think even until now there's a lot of hype on startups, new potential, new growth, breaking the norms. So that kind of, I guess, drew me into the whole industry.
I see.
Yeah, and that's where we got started on all this.
I see. So at 15, you were already like eyeing some kind of a startup, or there was an aspiration that you wanted to go into lah.
I suppose in some inclination, but it really only happened in, I would say, in university days.
I see.
Over years.
I see.
So, yeah.
So, but did it help you pick a major in university because of your aspiration to go, or you just like went with the flow, do something in university, then figure it out later?
Yeah, actually, I was more inclined to investing. So I wanted to take computer science, but I was accepted in the computer science, but then a lot of people were recommending not to take computer science.
Interesting.
Because back then the Indians and predominantly the Indian was churning out a lot of computer science graduates.
Correct.
So-called low cost. So back then everyone said that was not the future. You can never compete with these people.
I see.
So I switched it halfway into accounting.
Okay. Did you enjoy it? I mean, coming from a more technical background in computer science, switching to accounting, did you find it more interesting or more boring in a way?
Both are okay, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay.
Accounting was quite. I figure, in a sense, computer science I can always pick it up along the way. But accounting is something that is necessary and is really boring.
Okay.
It's not something you read on your free time.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. but some guys do, some geeks actually study accounting standards in their free time.
I realized that along the way when I was doing uni, and I realized, shit, there's some people who really enjoy this.
Exactly.
Who really reads the IFRS word by word.
They read GAAP standards, they read IFRS standards in their free time. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But that's not me. That's not something that I enjoy.
Okay.
But having said that, I think accounting does create a good base for business knowledge.
I see. I see. Okay. So it was midway through you switched from computer science.
Before I started.
Oh, before you started.
Before I started the course.
I see. So it was not like first year, second year computer science, and then okay. So
right before I started.
I see. Okay, cool. Then you finished accounting. Did you actually venture into the corporate world first to get a job or whatever before your first startup?
Never did actually. My first job was my own startup.
I see.
I started during university.
Okay.
So we started a stocks analytics tool.
Okay.
Think your share investor, your guru focus.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to build something that is. Back then, I think share investor, I think still now is the same.
Yeah, it is.
It's not really the best tool that you can use around. So we wanted to do something along the line of building better data analytics for retail investors.
I see.
That was the first startup that we did. Along the way, we realized that that's unfortunately a very challenging business model. It's not something that people are very happy to pay excessively about. And in addition to that, I think the home market in Singapore is not really the most conducive for this set of startups, which explains why until now there's still no good tools around.
That's right.
It's still the same old ones in the market.
Yeah, and then so interesting that we are very because both of us were very involved in that space. So maybe I'm going to go a little bit deeper, and a lot of the audience in the podcast would definitely want to listen to this because a lot of them want better tools, but ironically not willing to pay for a lot of these better tools.
Correct.
Yeah. So maybe can you share a little bit about what do you see are the problems in either the data collection or either the interfaces or the user functional requirements of these tools? What do you think the market needs, and what were you building versus that of what were the customers willing to pay for actually?
Yeah. So I think the fundamental problem was there is no scale in this part of the market, rather this part of the world. So if we were doing this in China, in US, in Japan, maybe this would be different. But if you want to charge $50, $20 a month for a subscription, you basically need scale.
Yes.
And in Singapore, population of 5 million people, I think the retail investor population is less than 30,000.
Yeah.
Active ones.
Yes.
So basically, if you charge $20,
even
the
at that
maximum revenue you're doing is $600,000.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very sad business, put it this way.
Yeah.
So I came to realize that in this industry, either you have scale, in fact for most, you either have scale or you charge a very high price. So those who are doing educational courses who charge $5,000, $10,000, they can do quite well. And they can even break $1 or $2 million yearly revenue. So those are the ones that will survive and I guess will continue to thrive over a long period of time. Those who wants to do a recurring, and data collection is very expensive.
Very, very expensive.
Very intensive.
Yeah.
I don't think people just see the value of it.
Okay. And you were crunching this data yourself, or you were aggregating this data from other?
We were doing ourselves and we're aggregating as well.
I see.
From SGX, from news outlets here and there.
I see.
Basically trying to create a customized data feed.
Okay.
And the stock ratios.
I see.
Based on the portfolio. I
see. Okay. Eventually you, before the podcast, you were sharing me that you kind of like decided, this is not going anywhere, and then you just bundled it and sold it. And maybe the question for you would be, as an entrepreneur, how do you know when it's time to call it quits? Is it, after, because sometimes you hear people tell you, entrepreneur, you got to keep the grind, you got to keep going, and all that. And sometimes it's actually just said, okay, let's close this chapter and move on. What was that pivoting moment for you actually?
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
That's the honest answer until now.
Yeah.
We heard the same thing.
Yeah.
So we always thought that, okay, maybe I can make it work somehow. It's just that after a while you look at it and then see how far can you bring this to, right?
Understand.
And looking back at the market size, I think it just doesn't justify the investment that we put in. and sinking in more, I don't think we'll get any ROI back.
Oh, understood.
Yeah, so that's how we decided.
Did you spend out of pocket a lot? Maybe was it in the 5-figure range or 6-figure range?
Yeah, around 5-figure range.
5-figure range, but a lot of it was sweat equity, in a way. It was like the coding time, the data crunching, which is very hard to quantify in somewhat, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because
it's very hard to quantify.
Very, very hard to quantify.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So give us a timeline on when did you hive it off before starting Avirtech, actually?
Oh, I worked on it during university days. So all in all, I think finished it for around 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Then after that, decided to move on with it.
Okay.
We sold it over to Dr. Wealth. And then I moved into marketing for startups. Because that was one of the biggest problem I had, right?
Okay.
How do you get users? How do
you acquire users? How do you... Yeah.
So we were trying to help startups do that. Other companies do that.
I see. Were you paid a retainer or the success?
Retainer.
I see. Okay.
So after that, then I met Randy,
Okay.
my current partner.
Okay.
So we were doing enterprise systems.
Oh, ERP.
ERP systems, correct.
Mm.
So then we moved into inspection software, then moved into drones, and then moved into agriculture.
I see.
So that evolution was, I would say, by chance.
I see. Actually, sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs, if you ask them well enough, they will tell you that they have an idea, or they may not have an idea, but the idea usually comes best when the clients tell them, hey, I need this problem to be solved, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So before we go even there, I'm more intrigued about when you say inspection business. What do you mean by inspection business?
So we built a tool for mobile inspection, using mobile phones to do inspection of your lights, your cables, facade, and
facilities management lah.
Precisely.
I see.
So we were selling to companies like Subhana Jurong,
Okay.
Guthrie, and these guys. But Singapore market is a very small one again. So I came to realize that it's very hard to start business in Singapore because it's too small.
Okay.
So when you try to move overseas, Malaysia, Indonesia, it just doesn't sync with customers. Inspection is not something that is on the top of their mind.
Correct. You break it, you fix it only when it breaks, right? Rather than
What inspection?
Yeah, what inspection? What preventive maintenance, right? Yeah.
So because there was not much of demand for it, we happened to meet some customers in agriculture who says, I could use this technology in this in plantations.
I see.
So I mean, what do I know about agriculture in Singapore?
Probably the potted plants in your...
Yeah, that's probably the closest I have.
Yeah.
Or maybe in school days you go to see some hydroponic farm.
Yeah.
But yeah, they came to say, okay, I have some these problems. And if you can do it, then maybe you can look at it.
I see.
So that's how we got started on it.
So this was what? Probably 5-6 years ago or longer?
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
3.5, 4 years ago, correct.
Okay, and Randy, your partner, was he from a technical background?
Yeah, he was a software engineer for 20 over years.
I see. And how do you guys cross paths in a way?
Introduced by a mutual friend, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was looking at Indonesian market for the stocks.
Okay.
That's how I met him.
I see. Okay.
I decided not to proceed Indonesia. I mean, the barrier was tough.
Okay, for investing, you mean?
Yeah.
Investing, yeah. Okay, because you need to learn local culture, nuances, context. Yeah. Okay, so inspection to Avirtech, and perhaps share with us what is agriculture tech in general first. Paint us like the 50,000 feet view.
Yeah. I mean, we like to say transformation to agriculture 4.0, right?
Yeah.
So,
but there's a lot of words, are there?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I think it's the same concept of a smart city.
Okay.
You try to apply it into agriculture.
Okay.
So that's really what agritech is all about.
Okay.
Trying to mechanize.
Okay.
And trying to have a more data-driven approach into how things are being done.
Okay. Where do you think the agriculture, especially in Southeast Asia, is? If you were to draw a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most optimized, and 1 being like, we are like still 60, 50 years way before.
3 or 4.
Okay.
I don't think we have changed much since 50 years ago. In fact, the yield per hectare has been coming down for the past 10, 20 years.
I'm not surprised.
So instead of going up,
Yeah.
I mean, we are seeing, in most cases, in production
Uh-huh.
increases over time, right?
Correct.
In agriculture, it hasn't been the case in Southeast Asia.
Very interesting. What about developed countries? Like, okay, on the top of my mind when we talk about agritech, it's always Holland.
Holland? Okay.
Yeah, because largest producer of flowers, they have, you know, a lot of their production is a lot lah for a country with such a small landmass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if you were to look at it, why do you think that it is on a scale of 10, it is a 3 or 4? Is it because, one, people were not coming out with solutions of what you are doing right now with Avirtech? Or two, the clients themselves don't even realize there's a better way of doing things? Or is it both?
I don't know what happened for the past. I mean, I'm not old enough to, be honest, to see through the whole cycle.
Uh-huh.
But when we started in agriculture, we decided to shift the focus in agriculture. We tried both Malaysia and Indonesia at the same time.
Okay.
And Indonesia took off a lot faster compared to Malaysia.
Okay.
Ironically, because the Malaysia companies actually required more.
Ah.
Because manpower shortage is more
More acute. Yes.
acute in Malaysia, right? But the adoption was much higher in Indonesia.
Why was that?
I think it all boils down to mindset.
I see.
The ones who are heading the Indonesian companies now, quite a big bulk of them are actually Malaysians in the 30 to 40s.
Okay.
As compared to Malaysians who's heading a company now are typically 60s.
They are the baby boomers in a way.
Correct. So
I've done it this way. Yeah.
I don't need to change it.
Yes.
And to be fair, the companies are profitable.
Yes.
It's an immensely profitable companies.
Yeah.
If you can see them on the main board.
Yeah. The
Every
KLKs of
year-
this world, the IOIs of this world, in a way.
Correct.
Yeah.
They just keep everything status quo.
Mm.
Once in a while, the prices goes up. They make a huge windfall. Last few years they have been.
Yes.
So there's no incentive for them to move in that sense, I guess. Whereas Indonesia was a bit better because they were expanding. The concession for Malaysia has stopped for a long time.
Yes.
It means you cannot simply get a new license to
Plant. Yeah, and more for the benefits audience, I think what Wilson is referring to is mainly for palm oil, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the bulk of it, right?
Yeah, that's like 40% or 50% of all the agriculture.
Yeah.
And if you talk about profit, it's probably 80% of the whole profit of industry.
Correct.
So palm oil concession is, I would say, the key.
Okay.
Especially to deforest in the past and then to plant new ones. So they have stopped for many years.
Okay.
In the past, there has always been just cut. You grow new ones,
Yeah.
you increase your revenue.
Mm.
But over the years, Malaysia has stopped. Indonesia has stopped as well.
Mm.
So that also drives the incentives for them to start finally looking at how can I squeeze out more per hectare rather than just buy more land.
Buy more land, yeah. Actually, the moment the concession stop, people then only they wake up to optimization rather than just like expanding.
Precisely. It's cheaper to expand.
Yeah, definitely. Because optimization is always a long and arduous road. It's like that 1% increment,
And
rather.
you don't know if you can get it.
Yes.
Whereas if you cut and plant another 1,000 hectares, you're guaranteed to get X amount of yield.
Yeah, that's a good point. So good. Since we've segued into palm oil, perhaps also share what's the biggest problem that they face, especially either maybe you can start off with the large guys, meaning the Sinamas, Patimas of Indonesia, the KLKs and the IOs of this world, versus that to the small time plant, medium and to the small time planter. What's the biggest headache or cost? Maybe start with the headache or maybe the cost for them actually.
I think for the biggest plantation, we predominantly serve the big plantations. Number one, they have scale.
Okay.
Number two, they have money to invest into R&D.
Okay.
And to trying out new solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's our main customer base.
Okay.
For them, how should I put it? The driving factor for them is really more about how can they control.
Okay.
Because-
Explain.
Because each, for example, Sime Darby, 100 over 1,000 hectares.
Yeah.
cinemas, 500 over 1,000 hectares.
Yeah.
There is no way the management knows what's happening on the ground.
Wow. Okay. They don't have like, you think about control means Houston Control Center, you've got all these parameters feeding you sensors and all that. They don't have that. All right. Okay.
Correct. So it's pretty much operating
in the dark lah.
In the dark, correct. And then very dependent on the local managers. So we find that even things like, for example, the purchasing, the invoicing are all done on the local levels. And of course, there's not always the full transparency.
I see.
I mean, how on earth are you going to see, even if you do a site visit, how on earth are you going to see it?
Yeah, in a day, you wouldn't be able to see all this.
Precisely.
Yeah, and how are the reports? I mean, I'm pretty sure when you supply all these data sets over to them, right? Did you actually go through the current existing status quo reports that the local plantation managers actually give to?
I don't have access to the internal reports.
Okay.
The reports for them is always about yield per hectare and so on. The problem comes is when it's going down and nobody can help to solve it. So they always do a lot of management change, fire people, bring people, rotation and so on. It works.
Okay.
But it's probably not the most efficient or effective way of doing things.
It's the band-aid solution.
Yeah, precisely. And then you try to cut. But there's so many factors that is driving it, right?
Okay.
So what we try to do is we try to bring in a lot more insights into how things can be done.
Okay.
And, perhaps to shorten the time for them to identify the problems
Mm-hmm.
and then they can solve it faster.
Okay. So perhaps go through the process that you would start. So let's just say, Wilson, let's say Cinemas comes to you. Wilson, I've got a problem. I don't know this, I don't know that. Virtually, they don't know head or tail, toe, right? So how do you start? How do you even start accessing, like, okay, this is your acreage, pinpoint one area that, let's say, okay, maybe is it like fertilization, manpower optimization? There's so many things, right? Where do you start? Take us through that process.
Yeah. Maybe I go back a bit into what our solutions are about.
Please.
So we have three main verticals in a sense.
Yeah.
Three main solutions.
Okay.
The first one is what we call mapping.
Okay.
So it's a remote sensing diagnostics.
Okay.
So we put sensors into the drones.
Okay.
And then we fly it to capture data.
Okay.
Essentially images.
Okay.
With different kinds of sensors. So you have your normal visual cameras. You have your multispectral imaging.
Okay.
It's like something like X-ray for the plants.
Yes.
And then we capture this data using drones. That's what we call mapping.
Okay.
And then once we know roughly where are the areas that has problems, for example, pest infestation, fertilizer issue, that's when we can tap into IoT devices.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our newest unit actually. Basically trying to put in sensors on the ground to pick on data. For example, your weather stations, soil moisture, water table, GPS trackers and so on. And then finally we move into spraying.
Okay.
Which is to treat the problem. So if you have pest, if you have fertilizer shortage, how much should you put? And then you need something to actually deliver the solution, right? So that's basically what we do. We try to make it into a whole set of solution, but of course in fundamental case, the problem comes is I have pest infestation. I need to finish it within this amount of time.
Before my yield gets hit or before harvest season, right?
Yeah. So I need you to do this. So that's a bread and butter for us in a sense.
Okay.
So we come in to do a lot of spraying. We do mapping as well. That's for the planning phase.
Okay.
I need to do replanting. I need to check.
Okay.
Then you do that.
Okay. So if I understand you correctly, and do correct me if I'm wrong, usually people come to you is I have a problem. Oh, I have pest infestation. But then you would like granularize it in a sense that how big is an area you're getting pests, how many trees are infected. Most of the time, do they know or do they don't know?
They think they know.
Okay. But how do you help them know exactly what to know?
Yeah, so basically our mapping data can give you 100% capturing of where are the areas that is infested and how many trees actually are infested.
Okay.
There's also a mindset change.
Okay.
Because a lot of managers think that I can walk the ground and see.
Yeah.
Correct. I
Yeah.
can tell you how many.
Yeah.
But the question is, do you really know how many trees you have? That becomes an ego issue between us and the existing people who's running the operations or the agronomists.
I see.
Yeah, but fundamentally the logical answer is how much can a human cover within a day, right?
Understand.
Yeah. And you're talking about, for example, worms.
Yeah.
In a tree that is 8 meters high up, how accurate can you be? So those are the areas that I think we definitely have something to offer. But not all customers are so forthcoming.
Understand.
Yeah.
Because it's also a reflection of how well they manage the estate, right? So the face is on the line, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we face that kind of resistance all the time.
Uh-huh.
But in general, the customers are slowly waking up to it and realizing that it can bring them
To
yield
greater.
improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good. I want to dig a little bit more into so let's just say now it's like, if I use the analogy of a doctor and a patient. The patient has a sickness. He comes to the doctor gives him some medication or some treatment and he recovers. But then during that visit, he realized, oh crap, my lifestyle needs to change, a better diet, all that kind of thing. Is that a good analogy to describe how you would provide solutions to?
You can say so, yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Then if we were to take that, so the first one is usually a pest infestation. You help them solve that. Then would that be a good pivoting conversation to say, hey, are you guys optimized in your fertilizer? I'm just giving a hypothetical.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Correct. I think a lot of technology and a lot of best practices actually hasn't been widespread. And in fact, I think there could be a lot of practices that is not good that is being practiced right now.
Give me an example.
One case, planters always like to use back after they cut the trees, right?
Yeah.
Or they do a trimming, they use the leaves and so on, and the fruit as
Fertilizer, is it?
fertilizer. Correct. But what's the problem with that is fundamentally you are taking whatever that is left over, could be infested, and then you putting it back inside.
I see.
Things like, for example, Ganoderma, which is it's essentially a cancer in the sense of palm trees. You're just helping them to propagate.
You're giving them to a new host in a way.
Precisely. So I don't think it's good practice, but again, you don't see the impact immediately.
Understand.
Right? It takes years for the effect to see. The other one is, for example, foliar fertilization.
Okay.
So in places where you're using peat soil,
Okay.
there is usually a shortage in minerals, zinc, copper, and so on.
Yeah.
Typically, a lot of companies do not add on micronutrients. And it's not easy because when they plant so many areas, they think that it works for here, they try to use the same somewhere else.
Replicate lah.
Correct, but it's not the same.
嗯
So a lot of these practices are not being put into place, which I think could be significant impact. But in any planting, it takes, if you start to do action now,
Yeah.
it takes easily 1 year or 1.5 years later
To see the impact.
results.
So the feedback loop is actually 2 years, you see.
Correct.
And if I understand you correctly, you're trying to shorten that feedback loop because you have the data set from many plantations to say if you start the preventive today, then this is what's the result you're going to get lah.
That's what you hope to do. But even then, I think the process has been slow. I mean, we are only here for 3 years in agriculture, so it's still an early stage. But I think that is a big problem that is stopping the advancement of agriculture. So over the past 10, 20 years, the processes, the steps has been the same.
I see.
Nobody want to change it.
Okay. Oh. If it ain't broken, don't fix it, right? Don't know. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm just a little bit surprised, to be honest, because these are large corporations that have an R&D budget. Don't they have like scientists, for the lack of a better word, looking at this kind of data set in terms of yield, in terms of, I know like people like United Plantation, they do, I don't know if I'm using the correct term, they do crossbreeding to actually get the best seeds and all those kind of things. And then some of these other planters, they like buy to copy the genetics to get a better yield. aren't there like scientists that are employed by the KLKs, the Sime Darbies of this world to come up with solutions? Or,
of course.
Okay, so why are they not solving this problem? Or are they even seeing this problem?
I think they are. In fact, most of them are the champions of the reason why drones and technology can take place is because we have them. They usually are the ones who champion for these solutions to be adopted.
Okay.
But look at a company that's multi-billion dollars.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest at stake.
Yeah, different lobbyist groups and
So the honest answer is R&D hands are also tied in both cases.
I see.
Because even if R&D were to produce a certain set of results, they don't have the right to implement the solutions on the field. So it goes back down to the problem of control.
I see.
Because each individual estate has its own P&L and they manage themselves.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Yeah, that's how it's typically run.
I see.
So they have the right not to adopt the solutions done by R&D.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. But wouldn't it be reflective in a way that if each plantation has their own P&L, and let's just say someone like Sam, I'm just using example, Sam they consolidate plantation A compared to plantation B, A is better yield, better run, whatsoever, wouldn't B somewhat be penalized or like called out, or that doesn't happen and that's why there's no incentive, is it?
I think there is for sure. The bonuses definitely are a big part of it. But fundamentally, agriculture is something that you cannot really control. For example, there's a bad weather.
Okay.
Across in Malaysia,
El Nina or whatever lah.
Yeah, so basically the excuses are quite significant as well.
So they will blame it on the weather lah.
Or you blame it on shortage of workers and all this stuff, which is true, but not within the control of any estate manager.
I see. But what you're saying is that if they do implement these solutions, like what you're proposing to them, actually, while you cannot control some of these external factors, but you can achieve some sort of optimization as well.
Correct.
Okay. So now going a little bit deeper, what do you think has been the greatest motivator for them to start adopting? What is like the aha moment? Okay, so usually it's you solve the pesticide.
Manpower shortage.
Okay. Explain. So, is it from a surveillance perspective or more from an application perspective, or both?
Both.
Okay.
I think fundamentally the reason why they are forced to use drones and the adoption rate has been quite fast.
Okay.
Number one, of course, the R&D has been championing us.
Okay.
Either a digitization division or a R&D division has been championing it.
Okay.
The other bigger reason why the estate are so receptive is not enough people to do the work.
Okay. Especially in Malaysia, right, with labor shortage and all that,
Precisely.
right? Yeah.
So over the years, even within Indonesia, there is a decline in labor force in agriculture. I mean, very little people aspire to be farmers.
Yeah. It's not like the States, the farmers are the rich one because they have like huge swaths of land, they own it. But in Indonesia, Malaysia, most of them are not the landowners themselves.
Precisely. Even if their landowners is only 0.1 hectares.
Yes.
So in general, if you go out there in the market, in the industry, and you tell people you're a farmer, I don't think people think very highly of you.
Sad but true, right?
Yeah. So I think that also has driven the fact that with the gig economy, right? Your Gojek, Grab, you can make a decent living in the cities doing deliveries.
Yes.
Compared to what the plantation pays them.
I see.
So a lot of people are moving out.
I see.
So imagine if you have shortage in Indonesia.
Okay.
How bad is it
in Malaysia? It's even worse, actually. You came in, it's a shared office, right? All my neighbors are manpower supply guys. Every day when I bump them outside, it's always like we're not getting enough people, right? So okay. Usually where would they be more willing to start spending on the tech? Is it more on the surveillance side or more on the application side? Because maybe, can you educate? Let's assume that I don't know anything about oil palm plantation. What are the main activities starting from, let's just say, the clearing of the forest all the way to harvesting? Maybe you can bring us through that process and where your solutions will actually come in.
Okay. Oh, that's a very, very broad topic.
Yeah, maybe you can concise it. I know it's big. Sorry, I gave you a loaded question.
Yeah, that's a huge topic to
yeah.
talk about. Because there's so many steps in between. But in a nutshell, you basically have a planting, right?
Yeah.
So you have a nursery.
Okay.
And then you plant the crops.
Okay.
So during this process, you of course have to do land clearing.
Okay.
Which means we spray the herbicides.
Okay.
To get rid of all the weed.
Okay.
And then we spray fungicides,
Okay.
pesticide, fertilizer, nutrients, and so on, so they can grow up. So that's a big part of it.
Okay.
No, I skipped a step.
Okay.
Before you even start planting, you need to know your area.
Okay.
Correct.
Topography and all that.
Topography.
Yeah.
Where to plant, how many trees you can do, how many to order, and so on. So that's where the surveillance and mapping actually comes in.
Okay.
First,
Okay.
to get the base data,
Okay.
then you do the planting, and then during the grow up stage, you do mapping to check on pest infestation, check on the growth.
Okay.
Is there any trees that died along the way that you need to replant?
And this is usually between the 0 to the third month, is it?
Usually 0 to 5 years.
I see. Okay.
Still an early stage, right?
Okay.
And then after that, during that, it's just pretty much routine fertilizer
Okay.
and pesticide control and harvesting.
What about irrigation?
For palm trees and this part of region, the fortunate thing is we don't really need. If you go to Africa, where actually palm came from Africa.
Yeah.
Yes, you need irrigation actually.
I see.
But in Southeast Asia, we are quite blessed.
Yeah. So thank God for rain, right? In a way. Okay. Okay.
So very little people actually look at irrigation. Only more on flooding management. That would be a bigger problem.
I see. And okay, I hope I didn't interrupt. So once you've passed that 5 years, it's mainly maintenance, flood mitigation, pesticides,
just feeding it and harvesting it.
And at the end of it, where do you see? Correct me if I'm wrong. 15 years and above is already super mature.
25.
25. Okay.
Yeah.
So do most companies squeeze the cigar butt until 25, or do you think they start replanting at 20th year?
Actually, the beauty of palm trees, and I mean that's a speculation that everyone has. That why Europe wants to cut, is because palm tree is one of the most cost efficient, if not the most cost efficient.
They are. Yeah.
Option in the market.
Yeah.
And it's also the least carbon footprint.
Yeah.
When it comes to producing the same tonnage of oil.
Yeah.
It's so efficient.
Yeah.
And it just blows up all competition from rapeseed.
Yeah. Soybean, oil.
It is.
Yeah.
It's just that good. So the whole 25 years, you can start harvesting at around 3 years old with a newer species, 3 to 5.
Okay.
Up to 25, you still can harvest.
Okay.
You can even harvest into 30 years.
But the yield obviously drops after.
Not really.
Oh, really?
The biggest problem is the trees are too tall to harvest. So that's actually the driving factor why they cut and re-harvest.
I see.
Yeah.
So if you feed it well, continue to irrigate it well, even in the 25th year and above, you can still harvest.
You still can very good yield and profits from it. It's just that nobody wants to harvest it.
It's too tall. I see.
So in palm industry, the biggest problem I think right now, which we can't solve yet, is harvesting.
Because it's just too tall after
it's just too much variables. If you compare to, say, like, for example, a fruit tree, a vineyard, and so on, it's very neat. You go in, and it's only 300 hectares, so it's very well maintained. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
In palm, one plantation is 50,000, 100,000 hectares.
Yes.
So it's mass.
Yeah.
And the trees are interlacing. You have your ferns dropping here. You have contours. It's very hard to automate the process.
Yeah. I've spoken to a few. Actually, one of my friends, he's building a monkey kind of robot to actually climb and to harvest, but it's still in prototyping. Very interesting because he's actually a hotelier, and I'm like, why are you doing this? But he's okay. Anyway, his pet peeve lah. So, okay. Thanks for that insight. So, going a little bit deeper into that, if you were a planter, estate, right? If you were to attack only one of these phases, okay, which one will you attack the most first in terms of cost optimization or whatever? One is the labor for the harvesting. Maybe what's the second one that you will want to attack and you think that you can provide a good solution, cost to ROI kind of benefit, biggest one?
That is very hard to say. It's equivalent to saying that when you take off and land an aeroplane, which one is more important? It's all very important.
I see.
Process.
I see.
It generally can create bottlenecks for you every step along the way.
Okay.
The place that we have most impact is on pest management. That's because our technology allows us to do detection fast and do the application of treatment fast. So not so much because the plantation, that's the biggest bottleneck. That's just where we are.
Understand.
Yeah.
Do you see other complementary players that are doing the other things that you are not doing, in a way, in Avirtech?
Not really.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I think the things that we are not doing is really, really hard to mechanize.
I see.
So harvesting, the one you mentioned.
Okay.
It's a multi-billion-dollar problem.
If
Anyone who can solve it is
gonna be a billionaire lah, put it this way lah.
definitely. Provided you can protect your patent.
Yeah.
You're guaranteed to make billions of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, the size of the Indonesian palm oil and Malaysian palm oil, you just conquer these two markets. Jiak bei liao already in Hokkien, they say, right?
I think even within Malaysia itself, you'll be a 5 million hectares around there. So 1 hectare is around 148 trees, 140 plus trees. So you can multiply that. It's 500 over trees, 500 over million trees.
Yeah, so it's like, if you take just 10 cents off one tree, right, every year, right? How much is that really?
It's fantastic margin.
Yeah.
And you have to harvest it every 2 weeks to 1 month. Every tree. So you have to multiply by 12.
Wow.
So it's a very, very... But until now, there is no way that... Or rather, I don't know of anyone who came up with a solution that is efficient yet.
Because I've seen some, I'm pretty sure you're in the space, you will know better. Some of them, they use this thing called they call it a chantas. It's virtually like a mechanized saw, correct. Obviously there's a certain height and you still need a guy to go and
Correct.
Yes.
So efficiency increment is very minimal. It also adds one weight for the harvester.
Because you have to carry a mechanized tool, right? Yeah.
Mechanized tool plus you have the power. It's just, right now it didn't, how should I put it? It doesn't call to them. It turns out that the most traditional way is the most efficient one. So that's one of the biggest issues.
It has to be like a quantum leap only then.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So you've covered the process of plantation and all that. In Avirtech, what is the solution that you're most proud of in a way? Is it the surveillance, or is it because I saw that you have even robots that actually apply pesticides and all that kind of thing, right? Which one do you think so far has been the greatest ROI, for the lack of a better word? Obviously, you've got a long road to go, but within these 3 years that you started Avirtech, what has been the greatest product or a system or a service that has brought in the best ROI?
That's hard to say. The ones that is most revenue generating are the basic spraying.
For pesticide control.
Pesticide control, yeah.
Okay.
But the ones that is, I think we have make a big difference is still on pesticide control, but more on precision. So trying to find, so there is a particular beetle that is called rhinoceros beetle.
Okay.
That likes to eat the heart of the palm tree.
Okay.
Especially the young ones.
Okay.
So the issue is if they eat it, the tree will die. So you basically wasted your effort trying to do the planting, right?
I see.
So they need to do maintenance spray and so on.
Okay.
And the area is only around 10 cm to 20 cm.
You mean the
heart.
The heart? Okay.
So you need to hit that kind of accuracy.
Wow.
So we developed a solution from ground up to do that.
Okay. How do you get people to, because Randy is more of a software solutions guy.
Correct.
But then to target that kind, you need hardware. So how do you find you get partners or like a solution?
We build a team.
I see.
We have I think now around 40-50 people of engineers working on solutions like this.
I see. And normally, what is your R&D time frame? Like you see a problem, like if this a rhino beetle, right? I'm pretty sure you need to get to estates to try out a solution a few times before you get it right,
I
right?
think it's around 1.5 years already. So we started on the first version. Right now, our newest version of the drones are doing around 30 minutes endurance. Compared to market, that normal spraying drones you have is around 10 minutes.
Oh.
So it's way better
Okay.
in terms of how much efficiency we can squeeze out per drone.
I see. So 30 minutes means roughly how many trees?
30 minutes you can do around 1 hectare.
1 hectare.
Around 140 plus trees.
Okay, so some numbers again. You were mentioning some trees or some plantations, they're not properly grid in a way, right? And from what I've understand from my very basic reading of palm oil, is that the bigger planters are more efficient in location sensing and all that, right? But on average, 140 is a big boy kind of game, and then the smaller planters, are they half or like 75% of
around the same? All of them do around the same, 130 plus to 140 something.
per hectare lah?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Now, going back to the drone and that precise solution, right? Who is actually paying or financing all this R&D? Do you get the customers to half finance or everything?
Ourselves. That's a big problem with the industry. I don't think any customers are so...
So you make it work, then only then you like...
Correct.
Then how do you finance it in a way? I mean, coming out of your own pockets, or do you raise... I prior to the podcast, you were saying that you raised 2 rounds of money.
Correct.
So who are the guys? How do you convince those guys to actually partner with you to run this journey?
So we raised 2 rounds of investment. Total amount is around $3 million US.
Okay.
They are predominantly individuals and family offices. Yeah. So I think all of them can see the potential in agriculture.
I see.
The market is big.
Okay.
The scale is big.
Okay.
And then we were one of the first few in the industry. So in terms of establishment of technology, we have, I would say, a head start compared to the rest.
I see.
So that is something that they saw that we can continue to grow.
Okay. I'm curious because you said it's individual investors and family offices, but what are the Cargills, the ADMs, and the Louis Dreyfus of this world? Why are you, in a way, not attracting them? Or you don't want to attract them, is it?
I don't know why we're not attracting them.
Yeah. But would you be open if they came knocking? Hey, Wilson, I'm ADM here. I'm like or let's say Wilmar, like for example.
Yeah. I would say that's a bit of a concern.
Okay.
Yeah. That also because if it's a customer at the same time as an investor, there's some potential conflict of interest.
Because they'll say, okay, Wilson, develop it for Wilmar, but nobody else can use it.
Right? Yeah. So we had that kind of conversations before. That's not ideal, right?
Yeah, especially for you. I mean, you own that equity and all that, right? You don't want to be capped in your upside, right?
Correct. And the fact is that the market is huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you gave one example of this rhino bug. What else are you, in a way, very excited about the product lineup for Avirtech? Where do you think that the next phase? Because I'm pretty sure this is a long tail, but what is the next phase that gets you really, really excited? What solution are you looking at?
So we are building quite a few interesting drone solutions. For example, rat bits, drop rat poison. We do water-based drones for underwater surveying.
Underwater? Why do you need that?
Because quite a lot of places they use water access, river, or rather canals.
Okay.
So you need to maintain a certain water depth.
Ah.
And they hire excavators to dig and maintain.
Okay.
So our job is to QC whether the work has been done properly or not.
Ah.
Because there's no way for you to see it, right?
Yeah, unless you do you're doing sonar, I'm guessing.
Precisely.
Ah.
We put the sonar on the drone and then we do the mapping.
So the drone is like flying above water level or inside?
It's on the water.
I see. Wow.
So we built quite a lot of these kind of solutions.
I see.
But I think the newer one that I would say is very challenging to get adoption is on the IoT sensors.
Okay.
For plantations. In plantations, the biggest problem is there's no network. So your 3G, 4G doesn't exist in most of the plantations. Which means your solution that you take from the market, you put it there, it doesn't work.
There's no GSM, man.
Exactly. So we solved that issue with satellite connection.
Okay.
So we do a direct satellite connectivity.
Okay.
Low cost one.
Okay.
Cheap.
Okay.
Which means you can have a lot more sensors.
I see.
Deployed.
I see.
The problem that we face and the challenge is always what's the ROI?
Mm.
And it's very hard to quantify
Understand.
compared to like pesticides.
Yes. Because it's straight away quantifiable, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Or surveying, I need to use it for planning and so on. Okay. But for IoT sensors, for example, if I can tell you how much rainfall you're getting for the year, you can do your prediction of a yield much better.
Yes.
You can also verify whether the person on the ground is bullshitting you.
Correct.
But what's the ROI? It's very hard for us to justify.
I see.
Very hard for them internally to justify when they bring up the budget to the top management as well.
I see.
So, but I think the solution itself has a lot of potential.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, they can change the way they are currently doing things. For example, fertilizers. If you put in the fertilizers and it rains the next day, heavy rain, you are talking about at least 70-80% of loss. And fertilizer is around 40% of the net operating cost.
Correct.
So it's a massive cost.
Yeah.
How do they know what's the weather tomorrow? They just see the clouds.
There's no weather station. There's no like meteorological data that can feed into like a database. Like I mean, thinking of it like an ERP system, right? You are supposed to kind of like have a glimpse into the future to like, just in time kind of logistics.
Correct,
and this is exactly what you're trying to bring lah.
Yes. So those are the things that we hope that it can come. But again, of course, it's a chicken and egg. The technology is not mature. So if I'm trying to do, which is what we're trying to do, to do local weather prediction. So knowing to know, okay, this area of 1,000 hectares, what's the weather forecast like? You might have a broad one, but we all know that broad one is not very accurate.
Correct.
So we're trying to do that. But at the same time, of course, the technology is still very nascent.
Yes.
To do that kind of modeling.
Okay.
The data set is not mature as well.
Okay.
So it becomes a chicken and egg.
Understand.
How do we actually mature such a solution?
But then your moisture sensors and all that on the ground, that at least I thought it would have given you. Yeah.
And in theory, you should be able to bring it all together.
Understand.
And then the next question is how accurate is it, right? How do I quantify it? So all this is still a very early stage of development, I would say.
Understand. And it has to go through a few iterative cycles to see whether... Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, here's my engineer hat coming on. What I've heard from other players who are doing somewhat sensor building IoT, right, is that sensors have come down a lot in terms of prices, especially China-made ones, right? What is your experience in this cost reduction and accuracy and reliability of these sensors actually?
From our experience, I think the US brands honestly are still better.
I see.
In terms of reliability, in terms of accuracy,
okay,
they are still superior. The prices of them has actually came down quite a lot.
I see. Even for the US ones?
Yes.
Ah.
I would say right now 50% more maybe, or maybe 100% more. That's about
okay. But then if 100% more but lasts you 2 times longer than the China one, then the ROI is already, it's no brainer, right?
So I think the US brands are actually still doing quite well.
I see.
US Europe brands, because of the ISO standards.
I see.
Of the reliability of it.
I see.
Yeah.
Is it designed in US and made in China kind of thing?
Sure. I am very sure. I don't think they can maintain that kind of price with US manpower cost.
I mean, both of us are using iPhones, right? Same analogy, man.
Made in US.
Designed in US but made in China, right? Yeah. Okay, great. So now moving on into like probably the economics. One, we did brush briefly about funding, and now you're getting family offices. Based on the funding that you have, what kind of a runway are you expecting to see to develop technology? Probably 2 years, 3 years, and how long do you see before it turns profitable? Or you need to fundraise another round for the next phase?
I think for us it's mostly profitable. The biggest issue with us is capex.
Okay.
Basically, there's too much demand that the supply cannot catch up.
Okay, so buying more drones, is it?
Correct.
Okay.
So buying more drones, working capital to to run the business and so on.
Okay.
Because a lot of our business is driven by service.
I see.
Which means the customer don't buy the drones. In fact, they don't want to buy
the drones. They don't want to put it on the balance sheet anyway.
Yeah, they don't want to put it on balance sheet, and they don't want the headache of managing. Managing the workers, managing the R&D, managing the breakdown and so on, right? They just, you do it all. So that is actually our biggest hurdle when it comes to expansion.
I see. Are you struggling to get people to come into this? I mean, in a way, when you say Avirtech, okay, there's a tech, but everyone wants to be a software developer or a financier or investor, right? Is that a struggle for you in your company?
As of the moment, no. I think we are quite... we don't have a shortage of people.
Okay, people are interested to get into the industry.
Definitely.
Okay.
If you compare the local pilots, so we have around 360 people now.
Okay.
380. If most of them are actually local pilots, which means they're operating the drones, right?
I see.
We hire from the local vicinity.
I see.
So as compared to what they can get out there, we pay higher. Most of the time we pay higher. And then on top of that, it's new. As compared to what would they be getting if they go to join agriculture as a normal worker, or if you go to work in Grab and so on. So I think because of that, we have a good draw for manpower.
I see. Especially if they're local, then they don't need to travel outskirts as well. So it's like very convenient. Like, in a way, you are creating jobs that wouldn't have existed prior to this, or a menial job that you're upgrading.
Correct. I think that will be more the case. You're upgrading the local.
Yeah. How long does it take to train a drone operator?
Approximately 2 weeks.
He doesn't need to have aviation license or anything, right?
No. But they will go for drone license after that.
I see. So normally it's just like you have an open application, any villager, at least basic math, geometry and all that kind of thing?
Not really.
Really? Yeah.
In fact, most of people are not very well educated.
Oh. So, wow, if they see this like a big boy toy, right? And I get paid for playing a big boy toy, so all right.
In a sense, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, good. So manpower is not an issue, but you mentioned capex and all that. What do you think will be an optimal financing model to get more capital pumped in? Is it through debt, or is it... I don't think you want to dilute any more equity, right, in a way?
Yeah, I think debt financing is very interesting. It's just that the problem for us with debt financing is we are too small. The interest rates that we are getting is around 16%.
Crazy.
Asset-backed financing, cars.
That means you are actually collateralizing...
cars, not drones, cars. It's around 12 to 16%.
My goodness.
It's just crazy.
It's just, for me, I think it's very unfair. Actually, so ironic or so coincidental that we spoke about it, because this morning my guest, when we were talking about it, we were actually talking about financiers, the financial institutions and all that, not knowing how to assess risks. And then that's why they are very reluctant to give. So they are very traditionally trained in the sense, I must collateralize against the property, land, or that kind of thing. But talk about business risks, they have, okay, I just put my most pessimistic, that one, I give you a high interest rate, you default, that's my protection mechanism. Is that the same thing you're seeing?
Definitely. I mean, it's so extreme to the point that we just want to finance cars because we need cars to bring the drones to the site, right? So within the car itself, we have so many of it. A lot of banks don't want to finance cars more than 5 years old.
Oh gosh.
So I mean, for example, a Triton.
A Hilux, right?
You know it can last.
Yeah, it can last for another like at least 10 years.
But no, they don't want to. And worse still, a lot of them don't want to finance non-passenger cars, which means the Hilux is not within their financing.
Oh my gosh.
So the number of choices that we have is very limited and it's very expensive.
I see. What about like P2P or ECF? Okay, ECF not really. I don't think you want to go to equity, but P2P at least gives you a high double digit. High single digit, low double digit kind of.
We haven't really tried P2P.
I see.
That's not something that we tried yet.
Okay, good. So I don't know if you're comfortable reviewing the numbers for Avirtech, but if you are, what's the top line, what's the bottom line right now, roughly?
I think I'll keep that confidential.
Okay.
So I'm now in the process of fundraising.
Okay, good. Okay. So next, I'll probably ask you in terms of if you had a blank check, you're given a blank check today, right? What would you want to do first? What would be the utopia condition that you want to have for Avirtech? What were the things you buy? More drones, more cars? What is it? Or more sensors for the, what do you call it, for all this data collection IoT? Which one would you want to do first?
I think right now the biggest issue we have is not enough assets, not enough drones and cars to service demands.
Okay, because it sounds quite asset-like. I mean, how much does a drone cost? I mean,
$10,000-$20,000 US.
That's not a lot, you know. I mean, it's not very capex heavy. I mean, correct me, I'm wrong.
I mean, adding the car, 30,000 with the working capital per team.
Okay.
That's just one team.
Okay.
You easily require at least 20-30 teams.
20-30 teams. Okay. So in this way, one team is one car, one drone, probably
one car, two drones usually.
One car, two drones. How many operators?
4 to 5.
4 to 5 operators, one team lah. Okay. This is like in a way a mini business unit already lah.
Correct.
And the sourcing of the deals and the contracts will still be you and your partner or the business development managers.
We have a business development team.
I see, business development team. And how occupied or how utilized are the existing teams you have every day? Are they underutilized or overutilized right now?
I think more overutilized.
Okay.
Also, a lot of geographical limitations.
Ah.
So they spend a lot of time moving as well.
I see. Because, probably from one plantation to, unless you have helicopters. Just kidding.
I wish.
You wish, right?
Maybe a transportation drone will come soon.
Yeah. Okay. If you were to look at the prospects of growth for this industry, besides palm oil, I think obviously palm oil is because the monetization is there and all that. Besides palm oil, what other agriculture niches that you think will truly benefit in a way? Because I saw a CNA, what do you call it, documentary just last week only. They talked about durian farming. Yeah, do you see that being applicable there as well, or do you think that whatever they're paying in palm oil is too high that these other fruit-based cannot meet?
I think fruit-based will pay even more.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a lot more intensive loving care. Your revenue per hectare in durian is way higher. I can't remember how much more.
Okay.
I did calculate before.
Yeah.
But it's at least 2 digits
higher.
Not
Multiple,
not.
Oh, multiple 2 digits higher.
Yeah.
Wow. And why are they adopting it like palm oil?
They are.
They are.
But it's just that the scale is much smaller.
I see.
You see a durian farm that is considered very big. It's 1,000-2,000 hectares.
Yes.
In palm oil, 1,000 hectares is very
Small. So the scale in the niches are different in a way.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why we never entered, or rather we are not active in durian yet.
I see.
It's just that the sales process is a lot harder. As compared to big plantation, you get in is 200,000 hectares.
Okay.
Yeah, compared to durian. So if you move down further, which is also the reason why technology wasn't so widespread in other countries.
Okay.
It's because a lot of them are smallholders.
Okay.
As compared to say US, the smallholder there we're talking about 1,000 hectares.
Even
10,000 hectares.
Correct.
Here smallholder is 0.1 in terms of paddy field and so on. They got no money. It's very hard for them to adopt technology.
Yeah. They just do it, whatever, try and test it, and as cheap and as efficient as possible. In their terms, efficient as possible.
I don't even think they care about efficiency. They care about what I can get tomorrow. So a lot of them are on subsidies, right? So, the typical problem that government subsidies have is they give them fertilizers to use. They sell the fertilizers.
Yeah, because they worry whether they can even make enough yield to feed themselves, right?
I think they just short term thinking. Because you get the money now compared to 3 months or 6 months.
Yeah.
I think that's a standard problem around.
I understand.
Which is also why the yield doesn't go up for them.
I see. Okay. I know you can't share numbers, but will you be able to share in terms of margins wise for this kind of business, roughly?
Around 20-30.
20-30, and so in terms of the breakdown of your COGS and your SG&A, is labor more than 20?
More than that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
labor is a significant cost of it.
labor, but then the pilots are okay. In terms of your capex, I would guess is one unit that you just described, a car, two drones, four pilots or five, right? That capex cycle, you do not need to upgrade for like what, 5 years? If you buy one set.
I would say probably 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, you mean the drones are obsolete within 2 years or what?
I mean, we've only been around for three.
Okay.
3+. So we've seen multiple iterations. The drones are still working.
I see.
It's just that it could be not the most efficient one.
I see. No, I'm just trying to understand your capex cycle. In a way, if an investor were to put in money, what would be the capex replacement cycle that we're talking about? Because like different businesses have different that one.
Correct.
Cars, obviously, you can do longer, right?
Right now, the car should be around 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, but Hilux, I mean, it's like if you come to Sarawak, where I'm from, the insurers will not even insure a passenger Hilux if you don't have a secondary lock mechanism. Because it's just too popular as a stolen car for palm oil estates. Because the moment you go into a palm oil estate, it just disappears, It's just too popular, right? Yeah. Okay. Next, I would ask you about if you were to... are there any hurdles in terms of government regulation if you were to go into countries like Vietnam or regionally? Is there like a hurdle because of regulation, or do you think that's not even a hurdle at all for your business?
I think definitely there will be a hurdle. Under the aviation law, there will also be new rules coming up.
I see.
I think as of now, most of the aviation in the world has been more lenient or close one eye on agriculture.
I see.
Because the risk of
collision,
risk of crash is very minimal in agriculture.
I see.
Which is also the reason why logistic drones until now has not taken off. You don't see it around.
Correct.
The technology is ready.
Yes.
The regulation has not caught up.
I see.
And if they were to implement, I think that will kill off quite a lot of business as well.
Okay.
Because the cost is, if you're going to rely on the way traditional aviation industry is, it's just too massive.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you need DCA, you need Department of Civil Aviation, you need like air traffic control and all that kind of thing. Oh my god! But
licensing, you need the certification, everything add up. It will be insane.
But even then, right? I don't think the government is even geared to regulate, because can you imagine if you try to enforce? You need inspectors and all that kind of thing, right?
How do you enforce in a plantation that is 100,000 hectares?
Yeah. But it's funny that you mentioned how to enforce. If you've been to KLIA, the whole surrounding is oil palm, So in a way, you're already saying that it's a no-fly zone around the area already, right? Correct. Yeah. So if you were to go in and you were to propose a drone, I'm pretty sure the guys there will say, "Hey, no, we're in KLIA, right?"
Yeah. Those I think definitely nobody will dare to touch.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Next question, and probably the last few questions I'm going to ask is, where else do you think, and maybe this is one hypothesis I have, and do refute it if you think it's workable, will there come a day when you have like you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, what they want is control, right? But only with drones, I don't think you have like a situation room or a control room, right? Perhaps give a little bit more detail of, for that utopia to happen, like a control room, real-time fertiliser, optimisation, all that kind of thing. What needs to be in place for total solutions like that?
I think the IoT sensors would really be a key thing, right?
I see.
I think you have seen it in operations in buildings.
Facilities management.
You have seen it in government settings. So it is possible if you have enough sensors equipped. And then they're able to transmit the data. The problem is, I think the capital expenditure is very high.
Okay.
So the investment quantum for companies is high, and that's what's holding them back. Right now, I think they are all happy with slower term data. For example, right now we do mapping. At least the data once a year is better than once that never happened. Correct? Like for example, our drones, when we do spraying, we have audit log of where it has done, how much it has sprayed, as compared to workers who claim that they have done it, but you have no idea, they just dump it.
Or they sell it.
Oh, they sell it. I was trying not to get into the topic there. So I think those itself, it always goes back because these plantations are ROI driven, right? That price is fixed.
Yeah.
The only thing they get is how much yield they can get and how fast I can see the yield increase.
Understand.
So the solutions right now is always geared towards getting fast returns.
Understand. Would you have a ballpark to say that if you were to implement that utopia per hectare wise, what is there like a ballpark range, like 5,000 ringgit per hectare or whatever, to get that kind of utopia? What's your ballpark? I know there may be some trade secrets, but roughly ballpark.
A bit hard to say.
Okay, because there's a different suite of the solutions.
Correct.
Let's say,
how detailed.
Let's just say the Rolls Royce solution.
I think around 100,000 US per 1,000 hectares.
Per 1,000, so about 10,000 per hectare lah.
Yeah, approximately.
Okay.
100,000 divided by 10,000.
1,000. Yeah, 1,000. Yeah.
Correct.
1,000. So, and that is something that will last you for like a whole plantation cycle, or
probably
just
3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
3 to 5 years. And in a certain sense, it will give you a real-time situation map. It will give you moisture, local weather prediction, I'm guessing.
You have a tracking of your workers, where they are, how efficient.
Wow.
I think that's a key problem, right? Because labor shortage is a function of how efficient they can be.
Understood. So you don't even need a punch card system. The surveillance is the punch card system.
And then tracking of theft. In Malaysia, not so much, but Indonesia is a huge issue.
You mean they can carry the thing, man? It's damn heavy, right?
They can, of course. They go and harvest and then put in the car and then drive away. So one of our solutions is do patrolling for them using drones.
I see. No wonder I was looking through your slide deck. I was like, no wonder. I was like thinking, what is this for? Okay, I get it now.
A rough estimate is around 10 to 15% is stolen every.
Come again? 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I thought 10 to 50.
15.
Okay.
But 10% of estate
it's sizable, man.
It's at least $1 million or $2 million easily.
Okay.
So it's quite a bit of money. Of course, it's not one person. It's so many locals around who does.
Yeah. Because these whole estates are not just gated and guarded, right? The boundaries are like, there's no boundary. People can walk through the forest. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you fill up one
Hilux.
Yeah, one carrier. Approximately, you can feed the family for a whole month for them.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's a lot of incentives for them to do it.
Understood. It's like RFID tags for like a huge supermarket, in a way.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably the last two questions. One is, if you were looking for an investor in this business, what do you have, like a fixed criteria, or do you like? Is there like a lock-in period, or what's the gestation period before you kind of like give them a return for their investments?
Good question. We are hoping to hit IPO in another 5 years.
Okay.
So that's probably the
Singapore market or Indonesian market for this thing?
Question mark for now.
Okay.
The honest answer is we are not the experts on this.
Okay.
So actually, we are hoping for investors who will be able to advise on those.
Because
that's not our expertise, right?
Understood. You want to focus on the core business, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we probably hire someone
to advise you. Yeah.
Correct. Because that's not what we know. Yeah. But we've been asked a question a lot before. Is there anyone who can potentially acquire the company? Maybe, but I think right now the industry is too nascent.
Understand.
I don't think there is anyone big enough to do a big buyout.
Understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question would be like, probably the earlier question I asked you is a blank check of money. But if I were to give you another blank check of resources you need, perhaps policy changes, government incentives, or whatever the sort that is not purely monetary in form, what would you request for, actually?
Government incentives, of course.
Okay.
The reason why China drones has taken off so significantly faster compared to the rest of the world is that the government subsidized, I think, 80 or 85% of the drones.
Wow.
to adopt technology. So it basically has a very strong impact on the way people think, right? Yeah, that would be a big driver for us if we can ever get that.
Okay. So hopefully, like ministers in Malaysia and Indonesia are listening to this. You heard Wilson said it, man. It could probably be his best New Year gift for this year.
I mean, Jokowi did say that they are hoping to see more investment by the state-owned governments into agriculture. He had a breakdown of a chart on where are all the money going to in terms of investment. I think fintech is one of the biggest investment, but I don't think that's the one that's going to make the biggest change in.
I am fully with you, because nobody wants to solve the hard problem. You are solving a hard problem, Fintech, I mean, like, look at payment providers that is mushrooming here and there. I'm like,
everywhere.
Yeah.
Does it really make a difference in your life?
Yeah.
Questionable.
Yeah, questionable. You probably have 2 or 3 competing solutions, but that's it lah. You don't need to have 20. Correct or not?
And they're all doing almost the same thing.
Exactly.
It's just not special in a sense.
Okay, great. Probably the last question I will ask you is, as a role model or a business model that you look up to, do you have one, 2, or a combination of a few business models that you want to adapt for Avirtech going forward? What do you strive to be as the utopia of Avirtech actually?
Business model wise, that honestly I don't have answer to it.
I see.
I mean, there's a lot of business that I admire personally.
As an investor, right?
As an investor, I mean, Apple is one of them.
Yeah.
Business model.
Correct.
I mean, the mantra is always a simple business, but extremely complex to copy. How do I achieve it? I have no idea yet.
Understand.
It's a work in progress.
Understand. Because in a way, a lot of your revenue is on a project basis, my guess, right?
Correct.
It's
a
little
service.
Yeah. Rather than a recurring income that they subscribe. Let's say you build the control center, the IoT solution for them, and then they pay you like a yearly retainer kind of thing, right?
Correct.
You've not gotten there yet, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously if you get there, then the valuations for your company will be very, very different,
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, not ever get there, I also do.
Yeah.
Because right now the negotiating power between the companies and us is big, right?
Yeah, because they're like the big boy. You're like, you provide me the solution, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, the revenue is in billions, So how much negotiating power do we have against them?
Understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of business model we hope to achieve, but it remains to be seen whether you can execute or not.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Wilson. I've learned tremendous amounts of stuff. I mean, I've heard all this in the headlines, but I guess because you're the operator, you've been in the trenches, you understand the mechanics of it. So thank you so much for your time and educating me and also the audience.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Yes, for those of you who enjoy this kind of content, subscribe to the channel, give it a like, hit that notification bell so that when new videos are out, you'll be notified. And see you guys in the next video.